kind of, can we have them say who they are? Because I'm not sure who everybody is.
Sure.
If we need to have that recorded in the minutes.
I'll wait until 7 o'clock.
Right. Okay.
Later.
Yep.
Do that. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to wait a couple more minutes to make sure everybody has a chance to join in. And I'll give a rough overview of how we're going to do things and how we'll handle the technological hurdles tonight. Good evening, folks. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to wait about 1 more minute to make sure that everybody's had a chance to join. See, we've got more people coming in now before we get started. Okay, well, my clock says 7:01. So I guess I will call the meeting to order. Before we do the pledge, though, I just want to explain roughly how this is going to work, technically speaking. We have a presentation that's going to be shown by our engineer, Paul Chatfield. And after that's done, we'll have time for questions, answers, and comments. If everybody can look kind of at the bottom of their screen, depending on what device you're on, you should see a microphone button down toward the bottom that says mute. The way the meeting is set up is that everybody comes in muted so that we don't have confusion if people join midway through the meeting. If you want to comment, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. But if for some reason I'm not seeing you or something, feel free to, jump in once somebody's done with their comments. We don't want to try to crosstalk with each other, but everybody's going to get their chance to make their comments. There is a hand raising function on Zoom, but it's a little bit difficult to use if you're on a phone or an iPad or something like that. So I'm not going to expect people to do that. We'll just do our best to get through it, politely. And if everybody's patient about it, I know this is not the easiest way for all of us to conduct a meeting, but it is a situation that we have, so we'll do our best with it. So with that, let me share our screen and we'll do the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and with that, Paul, I will turn it over to you, and whenever you want me to share the screen, just let me know.
Yep.
And I can advance it as you like.
Sure. You're going to advance the slides for me? Okay. Yeah, go ahead and share that screen so we can start the presentation. All right. Let me just see if I can do that. No. Okay. All right. So good evening, folks. I'm Paul Chatfield, and I am the engineer for the town. And tonight we're going to talk about the Town of Pavilions proposed water district number 7. And this is the first in a series of meetings that are being held. The first one this evening is a public information meeting. No action is taken by the town board as a result of the meeting this evening. And then there will be another public information meeting held at a later date. I think it's the 5th of January. Okay, Rob. So yeah, go back a little quick. So I just want to acknowledge the folks that are involved in the project. Supervisor LaPointe, Dean Davis, the deputy supervisor, the town board members are participating in the whole overall process. Next slide. We always need assistance from the town clerk, Cindy Starr. The town assessors provide us with some information relating to the units. Mark Boylan is the town attorney. Myself and John Hinman are the project engineers. And then we have involvement from the Monroe County Water Authority. And I'll get into the details about their involvement later on. Okay. So the purpose of the public information meeting is to review the work that's completed to date, review the project scope, talk to you about the project costs, review the property owner's estimated costs, review the steps to be taken and the project schedule, review residents' comments and answer questions, and then finally, ultimately, we want to determine interest from the property owners. So the goals and objectives of a water project similar to this is to provide an affordable public water service, maximize potential grants and low interest loans, and create a long-term plan for providing public water based upon needs, requests, and the feasibility. So a water district is formed in 2 different manners. The first one is that the residents, the property owners, may petition the town to form the district. That's called the petition method. Or the town board may proceed with district formation under Article 12A of the town law. Preliminary study would be initiated by the town board under either case. Service areas are evaluated. Alternatives are considered. Feasibility of the project area is determined, and then preliminary cost estimates are made. The district formation process includes preparation of a map, plan, and report being prepared, which we have begun to prepare that so that we'd have enough information put together to discuss with the residents and the property owners. Total project costs are estimated, and the annual cost to the typical single-family home is estimated. So we use that single-family home as the gauge for the most part of what a typical property owner would be paying. You're going to hear us talking about the typical single-family home throughout the project. Petitions, assuming we form this by petition, and I believe that would be probably the preferred method by the town board, but we'll talk more about that, is that the petitions are circulated to the property owners, and only property owners within the district may sign the petition. Ultimately, there's a legal public hearing held after the petition has been signed by the appropriate number of property owners to make it at least 51%. And then because the project cost is above the threshold of the comptroller, there would have to be a submission to the comptroller's office in Albany for district approval. A little bit of background information. The Monroe County Water Authority operates and maintains the Pavilion water system under what's called a retail lease agreement. They take care of providing potable water. They take care of operating the pumps and the storage tank and the water mains within the system. A typical average home uses about 60,000 gallons of water per year. That's probably something that's, probably if you have 2 to 3 people in your household. If you have teenagers, you probably use a lot more than that. If you're, a senior citizen, likely you would probably use less than that. But the average that we base our estimates on are about 60,000 gallons of water per year. So as part of the project, we've started to look at the potential for grants and loans, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And finally, the York Road water storage tank that's under construction will provide storage and pressure for the proposed water district number 7 area. The overall details of the project, this particular district includes about 22,350 linear feet of water main to serve approximately 41 homes. There would be fire hydrants located approximately 600 feet apart and generally at intersections. A water service would be provided to each existing home and business that signs up to receive a water service. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go on, but the key thing is that if you sign up for the water service from the Water Authority, you would get a water service as part of the project to the front property line of your home. Generally, we're going to be installing the water main and the other improvements within the right-of-ways of the town, county, or state. However, there may be times that temporary or permanent easements may be necessary depending upon where the water main is located. Typical area that we might need a permanent easement for would be to work around a obstruction like a head wall of a culvert or a very deep ditch that we just couldn't work around. So we would be talking to the property owners that would be requiring that early on in the process. So there's three basic sources of funding that are available. Drinking Water State Revolving Fund is a state administered program. Office of Community Renewal is a federal program that's administered by the state, and then the USDA Rural Development. I talk about that last because that is probably the most likely source to receive grant monies. So a while back, each of you prepared a income survey that was sent to you. And the purpose for that income survey was to demonstrate the income of the residents within the project area. The rural development funding is based upon the income levels that showed up in that income survey. Based upon that, we are able to apply for up to 45% of the total project costs. So if we had not done that income survey and you had not filled that out, we would have been looking at 0 grants. So thank you for taking the time to fill that out. Again, the most likely source for a loan is going to be USDA Rural Development. The project area qualifies again for intermediate funding, which allows for a low interest loan. Typically, currently, interest rates are a little bit under 2%, but we estimate that they would be somewhere in the 2 to 2.5% range for a term of 38 years. Once the project gets a letter of conditions from Rural Development, the loan interest rate would be locked in. The nice thing about that, and it's very similar to when you got a mortgage for your house, you got a mortgage commitment and it got locked in. This is the same thing, only if the interest rate drops down below the amount that they promised to you, you would receive that amount at the time of closing. So that's a good thing. Municipal bonds are another option, but the interest rates are higher and the term of the loan is shorter. And on a project like this, it just really wouldn't be affordable to go in that direction. Okay. So equivalent dwelling units associated with the project, we identify equivalent dwelling units or EDUs as a typical single family home would be considered one EDU that uses approximately 60,000 gallons of water. A 2-family home would receive 2 EDUs. A 3-family home would be 3 EDUs, etc. Now, commercial properties are identified based upon 1 EDU minimum plus additional EDUs based upon the water usage. And again, we generally use that 60,000 gallons of water per year as the equivalency of 1 EDU. Rural development requires that we identify a half of an EDU, half of an equivalent unit charge for vacant buildable lots that are within the project area. And that's only for vacant lots that are able to be built according to town code. Landlocked parcels, I don't think we have any in this district. Typically those are the ones that are set back at 0 units unless the owner also owns an adjacent parcel with road frontage, and then that would be charged a half of an EDU. But again, I don't think we have that in this case. Parcels that are in the ag district in ag production are totally exempt from a special assessment for water, except for a house and 1 acre and any farm buildings that connect to the public water. So if there's vacant or ag property in an ag district, which this is in an ag district, and an ag production, and there's no buildings and no service, there would be no charge to the property owner. So getting down to what the cost of the project is, and I want to maybe just take a quick step back. And I don't, Rob, do you have a picture of the map the boundary map perhaps?
Yeah, I do have one. Let
Okay.
me,
Well, I'm
I
gonna
just have
come-
to
We
switch
don't
the
have to do
screen
that
here.
right now.
Okay,
Let me just explain where the project limits are. So we have Perry Road from Route 63 to about 400 feet south of York Road. South Street Road from 11335 South Street Road to York Road. South Street Road from York Road to Dillon Street, or Dillon Road. New York State Route 63 from York Road to the Wyoming County line. York Road from Perry Road to the new water storage tank. York Road from the proposed water storage tank to South Street Road, approximately 1,850 linear feet. York Road from South Street Road to the Livingston County line, and then a portion of Peoria Road from York Road to approximately 1,500 feet south to serve the 3 homes near York Road. Now on York Road, between Perry Road and the storage tank, that water main is being installed as part of the tank project. And the homes that are along that stretch of water main from Perry Road to the tank will be part of Water District 7 and will receive water as part of Water District 7 progressing forward. And I'm sorry I didn't have that map in there earlier. We'll make sure we get that in there for the next presentation. So talking about the first year project costs, and again, this is a requirement of the comptroller's office that we talk about not only what the costs are for, down the road, but what your first year costs are. Because your first year costs are higher because you have to install the water service from your front property line to your house. So if you had a house that was 100 feet back from the roadway, from the right of way, at approximately $15 a foot, you'd have a cost of about $1,500 to install the service. And then you'd have some internal plumbing changes. We estimate that at about $200. That's switching over your well supply to your public supply. And then the Monroe County Water Authority has a one-time initial account fee and a meter charge of $240. So if you add all of those up and you see that I made a mistake on the total estimated homeowner's cost, we're going to catch that on the next one. Again, I apologize for that. You have a cost that is $1,940. And then you have a debt service charge of $870. And then you have water purchase, again, with the base charge and the cost of water estimated for 60,000 gallons, plus the county water charge of $1.20 per thousand. And then we have a repair reserve account fee of $20 for PVC pipe. Because we're putting the PVC pipe in service, that doesn't meet the Monroe County Water Authority's current standard, and that will require that we take maintenance responsibility for that PVC pipe. So that's $20 for that, and then we have a shared debt service of $20. Estimated water costs of about $428. And adding all that up, your cost is about $2,689 in that first year only. And we might have to correct that number. I think the math might be a little bit off. And where it's off is I increased the cost of the water service, the $1,500. I had previously had that probably closer to $1,000, but I did increase that, but I didn't make the math correction.
but that's that's going to be entirely dependent on how close your house is to the road.
That's correct. Flip over to the next page, and this next one will be your cost on a reoccurring basis after year one. So after year one, you've already paid for installing your service, for the meter fee, for disconnection of your well supply and doing all that stuff. From year two on, what you'd be left with is an annual debt service charge of approximately $870.87. That's the repayment of the bond for a 38-year period. And then again, the cost of water purchase, the water charges, and the reserve accounts, $428. Adding those up, your total estimated average cost, assuming a grant of 45%, is just a shade under $1,300. Now that debt service charge, you will have that show up on your tax bill as a line item on your town and county tax when your bill comes out in January. So that's a line item charge for the special district. The water purchase is billed by the Monroe County Water Authority on a quarterly basis. Okay. On a typical buildable vacant lot, you'd take half of that $870.87, and you would have a debt service charge of $435.44. No water usage, so no cost of water, leaving a total of about $435. And again, that's a buildable lot, not in an ag exempt. Okay. So the homeowner has some responsibilities. The homeowner installs the water service from the right-of-way to the house. They're responsible for abandoning the well or separate the well supply and any internal plumbing changes. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the options that you have for separation or abandonment of the well supply. The initial Monroe County Water Authority account fee at $240. And then for homes greater than 500 feet from the water main requires a meter tile for the meter, which is about $200. And then purchase water and comply with the requirements of the Monroe County Water Authority. Okay. So basically there's three options associated with the private well. Number one, and the preferred option, is well abandonment. So the homeowner is responsible for the costs associated with well abandonment. This is the preferred option by the Monroe County Water Authority. Option two is a well separation. This requires a one-time easement fee of $500 plus an $80 inspection fee every 5 years. So the well gets separated from the public supply. The Water Authority will then come out, confirm that that separation has taken place, and there's provisions that they can come back in and if there's question, they can come back in and take a look at it. But every 5 years, they will definitely do an inspection, and then there's a charge of $80 for that. Option three is a backflow prevention device. This is the most extensive and the most costly because it requires a licensed engineer to be designing it, and then it must be tested annually. And again, the availability of options 2 and 3 are up to the Monroe County Water Authority based upon groundwater conditions in the area and conditions that they have areas of concern for. Okay. The Water Authority helps us out. They provide technical assistance in review and approval of the plans. They supply potable water meeting and exceeding state and federal standards, and they operate the distribution system and the supply system, and they coordinate the new service installations and the well abandonments, and they will set up new accounts for the proper ownership of the billing relating to the supply of water. So we put this in here because some people wonder, why would we want public water? There's a consistent quality and quantity. If people have poor water quality or have to go through a significant amount of treatment, they understand that. Increased fire protection, there will be fire hydrants. With the increased fire protection, not only does it provide some security, but it could possibly lower your homeowner's fire insurance rate. The supply of public water to properties, from our experience, increases the property values of the properties by having public water, but does not automatically increase the assessment. And this is an important point because this question gets asked in almost every public information meeting or public hearing. But that reassessment does not automatically take place because the district is created. But what happens is over the course of time, if a home has a value, let's say of $100,000 with a well, and it turns out that there's a public water supply and the value goes up of that house, when that house goes up for sale, for instance, or a neighboring home goes up for sale, they look at comparables in the neighborhood. They look at similar properties, they look at similar style houses, they look at, similar features to compare between the two. So what happens is there does become a higher value, but that doesn't automatically mean that there's going to be a reassessment of the district. With public water, there is an enhanced marketability of the property in the future. There's less worry about water supply and eliminates the costs associated with private water supplies. Now, I've seen some people that have private well supplies that have, very good quality water, and they feel that they have very low costs, although they still have costs associated with electricity and possibly replacing pumps and motors and screens and things of that nature from time to time. I've also seen people with well supplies that have really bad quality water and have expended a lot of money, $500, $1,000, $1,500 a year for bottled water and treatment systems and salt and all sorts of chemicals. So it's a personal preference, of course. Just to give you a little quick background of the implementation of a project like this, you're looking at roughly 2 years before a project like this would be complete and put into service. Basically, it's broken down by the petition method that gets circulated. That's typically going to be a 2 to 3 month period of time. The application to the comptroller could take up to 6 months. Concurrently, we would also be applying for grants and loans. That could be in a 4 to 6 month time period. Preparation of the contract plans and specifications, 3 to 4 months. Approval, permits, and easements, that easily could take 4 to 6 months. And then bidding of the contract, 1 to 2 months. Construction, we say 4 to 6 months, but on a 22,000 foot water project like this, it probably would be something like 2 to 3 months. So your construction period is the shortest period of time on the whole project as we go through that whole project. Okay. So a couple of questions, and I'm just going to answer those questions because I get them at each and every public information meeting that I have done for the last 35 years or more. If I don't want water, will I have to pay for it? So if you're part of the district, you would have to pay for the water district debt. But if you don't hook up to the water, you don't have to pay for the water use because you're not using the water. Again, I've already answered the question about my assessment. If I don't want to hook up immediately, can I hook up later? And the answer to that is yes, but you would have to pay the tap-in fee and the installing the service to the right-of-way line. And that would be a cost that would be borne by you as the property owner. Currently, that cost is around $2,700. If you decide you don't want to hook up to the system and you don't sign up for service, we don't provide a service to your property line. And later on, you'd have to go back, and if you decided later on you wanted water, you would have to sign up with the water authority and pay that fee. Here's what we're finding in most districts, and we're doing a lot of these types of projects, is that, 95% of the people that live in the districts that we've done are signing up for public water. And if there's a concern relating to not being able to hook up immediately, you can talk to the water authority and work out an arrangement where you give them a schedule for connecting, and they'll work pretty closely with you. Last question there is, will I get a chance to vote on the water district? Since the district will be formed by a legal petition with a required number of signatures, the signing of the petition represents the approval of the district or a vote in favor. If you have 51% of the homes or property owners within the district and 51% of the total taxable assessed valuation of the district. So it's a two-way test. Both of them have to be above 50%. Okay. All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground. That picture is my latest grand dog. That's my little puppy that hangs around our house a lot. So, Rob, I'd like to turn it back to you to facilitate the questions and answers.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Paul, for that presentation. That was excellent.
Sure.
So as we switch over now, we're going to go to comments and questions. What I would ask of everyone, first of all, technically speaking, what you'll need to do is unmute your microphone. So there should be a microphone button down at the bottom of your screen, or if you're on a laptop or computer, you can press and hold down the space bar. Now, in order for this to work properly, we're going to have to all be patient with each other and polite with each other. Absolutely, I'm sure two people are going to try to jump in at the same time. I would ask that if that happens, just one person yield the floor for somebody else. We're going to take turns. What we absolutely cannot have is interrupting somebody while they're asking their questions or making their comments, because you can't even make out what's being said when more than one person is speaking over this platform. So everyone will get their chance to speak, I promise you that, but we do need to kind of take it slow and take turns. So with that, I would ask if anybody has any comments, questions for the board members in attendance or for Paul, the engineer.
Rob, I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
If you want me to ask one at a time, I can do that so that we can take
Sure.
turns too.
That'd be great.
Okay, so my first question is about the water storage tank shared depth service. Years back, when we first started talking about this, there was a conversation about who is sharing that debt. Is it just the people that are in the district or districts that the gentleman was talking about, or does it include everybody that's being served by that water tank?
It's going to start off with just the people that have water service right now in the town of Pavilion. They will get a debt service. And then any new districts that are using that tank, which would be anybody on the east side of town and the northern half of town, will pay a portion to that. And Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, from memory, I think you had $20 a year
Yeah.
for that. Would be the
Right.
portion that people in this proposed water district would pay toward that tank. And then if any new districts went online in the future in the town that utilized that tank, the idea is that they would also pay a portion so that, the cost of who's utilizing the tank gets spread evenly.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have another question, Becky?
I do. There was a question also back, sorry, I got a lot of history with this. about water pressure. Is the water pressure going to be improving to the fire hydrants that we currently have where it's low? And how is the water pressure being addressed for the homes that are signing up for it?
Paul, I'm going to leave that one to you.
Sure. So the water pressure will be improved. Not only will the pressure be improved, but the storage capacity for fire flows, for fire conditions will be improved. So the way that the system is going to be operated, where the water comes from the Monroe County Water Authority down South Street Road, to, I think it's, is it Walker's?
It goes to Dillon. Well, it goes to Walker Road and then down South Street, south
Right.
to Dillon. Yep.
Yep. So, that storage tank that we're putting in is going to be at an elevation that's significantly higher than the existing water storage tank behind the school.
Right.
And what that's going to do is it's going to provide us with an ample supply of water to be stored in the tank, and also with improved pressure pretty much within the whole system, through a series of pressure reducing valves that will operate the system based upon the needs in the system. So there will be improvements to the existing customers through this storage tank, both in pressure and storage ability. Because right now there is some of the areas currently don't really have storage up in the higher elevations. And then the storage tank that's at the school, the way that operates is that it really only operates at a very low level up above. It's a tall, narrow tank, but a majority of that water in that tank is providing the pressure for the system. Very simply explained. So I guess the long and short of it is there will be improvements in both pressure and storage capacity with improved fire flow.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The last question that I have, Rob, is will there be recommendations provided to the homeowners of contracts for hooking up from the right of way to our houses? I can imagine that with 41 households, you don't want 41 different contractors going in there. Just your
I'll
thoughts
answer
on
that. I'll answer that, Rob.
Okay.
So from a liability standpoint, a town shouldn't provide recommendations for contractors to be
Okay.
used. But from dealing with so many of these water projects, it's a natural evolving process that happens where people know that install water services, they come around and, you may work with your neighbor or 3 or 4 neighbors, or come together with a group and, do your own reference checks, and, people have recommendations, and, there might be somebody who gives a deal for doing, the service installations. But you won't have a problem finding somebody, because they'll find you. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Paul and Rob. That's all I have.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Becky. Who would like to go next? Does somebody want to just unmute and jump in?
Rob, I do got a,
Yes.
I had been to several board meetings, and I just want some clarification under the new formed water district that we're talking about. The 12-inch water main that's going from the new tower is on this estimate, right? I was just under the understanding the water tower is its own entity, right?
It is. It's a little bit confusing, Todd, if you want me to try to explain it a little bit. Normally, a water district would be its own location. Because the water tank was necessary for our existing water district, that 6,300 feet of line that you're discussing that goes from the tank down to the corner of York and Perry Road, as well as the tank itself, is being paid for by the existing water users. So that, regardless of whether or not this water district is formed, that tank and that section of line goes in and is paid for. This new water district kind of has the advantage because it's almost getting 6,300 feet of line thrown in, not necessarily for free because it's a $20 a year cost, but at a greatly reduced amount. So that section of line, while the homes on that section belong to the water district, that section of line is actually being majority paid for by the existing water customers of Pavilion, if that makes sense.
So let me just explain just a little bit further on that. So we have the water main going on Perry or on York from Perry to the tank. That's included as part of the storage tank project. And then we proceed from the tank easterly to South Street Road and then northerly on South Street Road to Dillon Road, right? I think it's Dillon.
Yes.
And that stretch of water main is going to be 12-inch diameter pipe. We are, as part of this project, will be installing the 12-inch diameter pipe, as I had just mentioned, as part of this project within the district. And that will provide improved fire flow capacities for District 7. And it will also provide improved fire flows, within the rest of the system, because water can get to that tank quicker and get spread out, at a easier, less friction rate.
So I guess it doesn't really answer it totally.
Could you just repeat that, Todd? I missed it.
It doesn't really totally, because this originally wasn't this under the water tower part though, not under the new district being formed.
No, this, the 5,850 feet of pipe that I'm talking about going east of the tank and north of York.
I
Right.
heard you, but from the tank down to the high school is where what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's being included in the tank project.
Right.
Okay,
That's being paid
Yeah.
for by the existing water customers.
so the 1,500 feet is the difference from the tank east and then north on South. Street.
Yep.
That little leg around South Street and just around the corner on York, which completes the loop.
Yep.
That little part would be part of this water district.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Sure.
Do you have any other questions or comments, Todd? Or do you want-
I'm set for now. Thank you.
Okay. Would somebody else like to address the board, or Paul?
I have a question about the South Street from York Road South. It says it goes to 11335. Is that all the way down to Boyd Road or just to the Covington line?
It's just to the Covington line. And the reason for that is that the county water system trumps kind of our community. And Monroe County Water is authorized to supply water in Genesee County, but they are not authorized to supply water in any way in Wyoming or Livingston County. So we hit a brick wall at the county line. And, years ago when we started talking about all of this, knowing that Covington and York wanted water districts, we thought, well, wouldn't it make sense to work together on this? And we tried it, but Town of Pavilion is this big in that room with players that are, huge. You're talking about inter-county agreements between Monroe, Genesee, Livingston, and Wyoming County. You're talking about getting sign-offs from all the towns north of us. So it just became something that unfortunately, even though it makes sense on the ground that York and Pavilion and Covington would work together, because of the legal arrangements and the politics and so on and so forth, it just wasn't an option. So, we had to focus on inside the Pavilion boundaries.
And just to complicate that a little bit, there's difference in elevations and difference in pressures. So on paper, it looks like you'd be able to connect it and serve in either direction, but the hydraulics of the system may not allow it.
So what effect does our dead end section of pipe mean for our water service? What effect, basically, we've got a dead end piece of line.
Yep, very typical on rural communities, rural settings like this. The water authority requires us to put a sampling station at the end and also a flushing device, and that would have to be monitored by the water authority. They're checking the chlorine level on a routine basis, and then they have to flush either manually or automatically on a periodic basis. And that's just common for these rural dead end lines. I bet you I have 100, maybe 200 of them in different locations. It's one of the things that's hard to get around. But what we do is we size the water main to make sure that we meet the fire flow requirements and the demand of the system. So sometimes we can change the size of the water main, decreasing it a little bit to cut down on how much water is sitting in the line without getting flushed out. And that's part of that analysis that the water authority and us go through during the design of the project.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any more questions? Okay,
Yeah, I got a question.
yes, Don, yep.
Hey, when the bids go up to the contractors for the construction work, is there a time period, one, obviously to get it back, but is there a time period that they have to start the project within a certain amount of time, or could it be a year and a half before they get the bid and they can say, well, we can't do it for a year and a half?
Take
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty stringent, related to the contract requirements. So you put the project out for bids. You have the bids due, they're public bids. We review the qualifications of the contractor. We provide a recommendation to the town board. The town board would then create what's called a notice of award. They would award the project. The contractor then has 15 days to assemble his insurance certificates, his performance and payment bonds, and sign the contract and turn it back to the owner, to the town. And then we go through the process of reviewing that information, getting the final approval from the funding agency to issue what's called the notice to proceed. And we have a time period in there. Typically that's 45 to 60 days from when we receive the contract until construction starts. There is a clause in the contract that requires, once the notice to proceed is issued, that the contractor has to start within a prescribed period of time. I don't know what that day period is offhand. It's probably somewhere around 15 to 30 to 45 days, but it's a very short period of time. We hold the pre-construction meeting and then they start construction. Then we also include a clause in the contract that requires that they complete the work within a certain period of time. So we sometimes, on a small project like this, we would say perhaps 120 days from the notice to proceed that they have to complete the work. Now, the only difference between that might be the time of year that we're awarding the contract. So if we're awarding it in, let's say this time of year, November, we might give them an extended period of time to complete the work when it's not, 2 feet of snow and below zero and bad weather conditions. So we decide that item based upon when we're ready to put it out for bids. And there's a whole bunch of other factors that we take into consideration. How busy contractors are on any given year. Certain contractors are very busy. That means prices are higher. It could be a situation where we have a hurricane down in the Gulf, and that has an impact on material cost because petroleum costs go up. So we're always looking at those items to try and make sure that we're getting the best price for the community, for the town, and for the residents.
To give you a quick little practical story of it, when we started doing the water tank project, one of those hurricanes knocked out a PVC resin plant down in Mississippi, I believe.
Yep.
And so they had enough material already made, but we had to fast track getting that pipe delivered and getting it in our hands, or else we were going to be in the situation where it was going to be a higher cost than what was originally bid, and there was, possibly going to be a difficulty getting it. So we tried to rearrange meeting schedules and everything so that could be approved and we could get that pipe up here as fast as possible. So we avoided that problem. So there are a lot of different variables at play, and we try to be practical and thoughtful about it to try to keep everything working the way it's supposed to and as quick and inexpensive as possible.
Rob, one other question. What is there a letter, or when does this vote come in to get back into play again to form this district? Is it going to be within the next month? Is it going to be, will we have to vote again to say we want it or we don't want it?
Yeah, the lawyer will draw that up, but Paul, could you let him, I don't want to get any of the specific things. We've got to get approvals, a couple of approvals before we can go forward with the petitions.
Right. So the information that we're giving you tonight, I'm going to go back and correct that slide that I goofed up on. We're going to have another public information meeting, and then the town board is considering applying for the funding. So the key is that we have to find out from the funding agency how much grant money they'll provide. Now, I've provided what I think is an estimate, but the final decision is made by the funding agency. So my recommendation to the town board is that if if what the residents here today and here on the 5th of January are happy with the ideas of moving forward and they want the town to proceed, is then the town will then, authorize us to prepare the grant application, get that documentation in, and get the actual grant loan combination. That's called the letter of conditions. And like I said before, once that's locked in, then you know what your grant amount is, you know what your project costs are going to be. Then we would prepare the petition and give it to the residents to sign, to the property owners. So that, we'll probably be able to turn around the grant application within 4 to 6 weeks. So we're looking at probably sometime in February having the final numbers put together, where we can, let the residents know based upon the grants that we've received.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else want to jump in? No? Okay. Well, if you change your mind between now and the end, feel free to jump in. I guess I would just like to conclude by saying, again, thank you all for coming out tonight on this virtual remote session. I know that's, some of us have gotten used to it this year, but others may be doing it for the first time. It's been quite a learning curve this year. But I want to reiterate what it said in the letter. If you feel that you want to make a comment or have a question, please feel free to call me. My cell phone is listed right there on the letter that you received. It's also on the website. I will be absolutely happy to take your call and do my best to answer a question. And if I can't answer, I'll find you an answer. My attitude is that, you know, a water district is something that you always have some people that want it, some people that don't want it. As the town board and the town supervisor, what our responsibility is to make sure that it's an open and as fair of a process as possible. And that starts with letting everybody have every opportunity they can to ask questions, to make comments, to have their voices heard amongst their community members. I actually would like to state for the record tonight that I did have a conversation with Doug Elliott over on Peoria Road. He stated that he wasn't against the district, but he did not want the service at his home and did not want to pay for it. And I asked him if he would like that entered into the public record, and he said yes. So I'm stating that here tonight officially for the public record. This video, these remote videos by law are recorded, and they're posted on the town website because they're open to the public. So I just want to say that if you feel the technical limitations and the difficulties of not being able to do this in person, and you have any concerns or questions, please reach out to me and I'll do anything that I can in my power, you know, to make sure that your voice is heard and your questions are answered. But I just got the email right before we turned on. We had 75 positive in the county today, which is a new terrible record. And I feel that we're probably going to be doing things on this remote method for a while more. The light is at the end of the tunnel, but we've got to, you know, be steadfast and disciplined for several more months. So I appreciate everybody for their patience. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to jump in and add?
Yeah, Rob, I got another question if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Speaking of what you just kind of said, you know, obviously with all this stuff going on and now they got with the new stimulus packages and all this, it's $900 billion and all this, it's obviously going to have to take money away from grants. I don't know enough about it, but the grant that the money's aside now is here today, it could be gone 3 months from now. Is that a possibility, which puts us back again to, you know, going backwards again because of grant money?
I'm going to have Paul jump in on this too.
Sure.
But I couldn't tell you exactly where we're at here on December 22nd, but I did ask that question through the fall. And what I heard back was USDA is one of the only people that still has money, or one of the only agencies that still has money. Paul, have you heard anything differently?
Well, I would never want to speculate on what the federal government in Washington's going to do, but the USDA rural development appropriation of money is an appropriation through the Farm Bill. And the Farm Bill, I believe, was re-established this federal year.
Yep.
So monies are still available, and there's an allocation of money that that is available for the program. And New York State gets a certain amount, and every other state gets a certain amount. And we've been fortunate in especially in the Western New York and Finger Lakes to get these projects funded through the Rural Developments Program, and they're always one of the top suppliers of money for public infrastructure projects. So, my best estimation is that there will be monies available for it. I'm familiar with what happened in 2008 with the home the home crisis and the economy in 2008, 2009. The federal government did come in and provided a significant amount of ERA funded money for public infrastructure projects. So, projects like this that move along, sometimes there's extra money that, I don't know where it comes from, but sometimes it happens. It doesn't happen often, but I've seen it happen.
And it's also worth noting that, Again, we don't have control over it, but interest rates are at a historic low right now. And the interest rates that are on these loans are fixed at the time that you get that letter of condition. So when you get the letter of conditions, they say what your interest rate is. If at the completion of the project, the interest rate is lower, you actually get to go with a lower rate. But if it's higher, you stick with that locked in rate that you get. So, you know, chances are good. I don't have a crystal ball, but I would say chances are good that we would be able to lock this project in at a pretty historically low interest rate.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Todd, are you raising your hand?
Yes, I did. I don't know, I'd heard that Covington just was working on a water district and they went back to New York State and did get more funding from New York State to help assist in the cost of that water district. Is that something that could possibly happen with this one here? I mean, is there a chance of going and getting more money once, I don't know where they are at in their process, Covington?
Yeah, I don't know the details of that project. What I'll tell you is that if there's an opportunity for grants, we're gonna try and find them. So
Okay.
it's possible, but I don't know the details of the Covington project.
Yep, I would say it's not in my nature to go around with a tin cup, but after being supervisor for a couple of years, I'm learning how to do it. And, you know, with the water tank, we certainly scoured everywhere we could to try to get as much money as we could for that. And we would do the same for this project or any other projects going forward. The worst you can do is get told no. But you don't get it if you don't ask.
Right.
Good point.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment or ask a question?
Since you're on record, Rob, for Don, yeah, I vote yes.
Well,
You know,
if-
Rob, I guess that would be, you know, good if people wanted to express their interest, just, you know, unofficially, just so you kind of have an idea. I mean, I would just put it, you know, phrase it as, and people that are, you know, based upon what you've heard so far, are you interested in the town continuing to pursue a project of this nature?
And if you're not comfortable doing it in an open forum, you could always shoot me an email or give me a call or anything.
Yep.
But if anybody wants to say what their opinion is, if it's strongly held right now, feel free to say it, but no obligation to.
Yes, please.
We're a yes as well.
I vote yes.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
I don't know if you came through.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again, everybody, for coming out. I'd like to wish everybody happy and safe holidays. Please do whatever you can to keep you and your family and our community safe. Truly, every decision that we make as individuals impacts all of us. So to me, there's no better way to show the spirit of the holidays than to not only think about our loved ones in our house, but our loved ones down the road and around the corner and through the whole community. So happy holidays. And with that, I would ask, I'll make a motion to close the meeting at 8:05.
I'll second.
Jim seconds. I think Mark is here. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed to closing the meeting? Okay. Thank you all very, very much for coming. Happy holidays and have a safe Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.